Live, on air and online. This is WSAV First News at 5.
That this will be handled right, and we will keep you informed.
We continue to follow developing news out of West Savannah tonight, where one man is dead after an officer-involved shooting. Good evening. It is Thursday, September 18th. I'm Tina Tyus-Shaw.
And I'm Russ Riesinger. Thanks for joining us. Details are still coming to light tonight. Here is what we know so far. Around 11 o'clock this morning, police were called to Augusta Avenue and Newcastle Street. Now, multiple officers and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation were called to the scene. The chief of police, the mayor, and community leaders were also on hand.
And of course, as is routine in an officer-involved shooting, the GBI was called in to investigate. We are told most of the information will come from them, but Chief Juliet Tolbert is expected to hold a press conference at any minute here in police headquarters. We are in the squad room awaiting that to start right now.
Well, the city's response to this shooting has been very proactive. Police Chief Juliet Tolbert, Mayor Edna Jackson, and Alderman Van Johnson were all at the scene within an hour, attempting to calm worried neighbors who had gathered there in the street. News 3's Andrew Davis joins us from Augusta Avenue with that side of the story. Andrew?
Well, that's right, Russ. For obvious reasons, this was a volatile situation from moments after it happened. But the city and police, even surrounded by anger, were trying to do their part to ease folks' fears and clear their minds just a little bit. Chief Juliet Tolbert actually walked around talking to neighbors soon after the shooting. She talked to folks in the crowd as well, trying to get a gauge of how they were feeling and what exactly happened. Mayor Edna Jackson and Alderman Van Johnson also were within the police tape, not only checking on the officers and the investigation, but making sure the people know where she stands with them.
We don't need anything to happen, and we are going to keep the family and the community informed of everything that is going on.
We called in Jerry Long, our WSAV crime expert, to get a little more perspective on exactly what happens after a police-involved shooting.
There are a myriad of things that are involved. Obviously, gathering the forensic evidence, interviewing the eyewitnesses, interviewing people who may have any information related to the incident in and of itself.
Yeah, that's right, Russ and Tina. We have just received this statement from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, or GBI. It says, at the request of Chief Tolbert, they are investigating an officer-involved shooting that occurred today on Augusta Avenue between Eagle Street and Cummings Street. The release says the initial investigation shows that officers arrested 29-year-old Charles Smith on outstanding warrants. The release goes on to say that when the police placed Smith under arrest, that he was handcuffed behind his back, and it says the arrest encounter has been captured on videotape. It says after police began putting him in the car, that Smith was able to apparently move his hands from the back of his body to the front of his body, and then he kicked out the window of the patrol car. The release says, according to officers, that Smith attempted to exit the patrol car, and when he did so, they saw that he had a firearm. It says the encounter resulted in Smith being shot and killed, and during the examination of the crime scene, that a firearm was found under Smith's body.
We want to take a listen now to what officials have to say.
We had an officer-related shooting at the location of Augusta Avenue near Eagle. One of our officers, Officer David Janot, was involved in this officer-related shooting where the young man, Charles Smith, was shot and killed.
Worried neighbors congregated near the crime scene wanting answers. News 3's Andrew Davis spent the day in that crowd, and he is joining us live now from Augusta Avenue, where he tells us a rally has now started. Andrew?
Well, that's right, marching for Mr. D and marching for justice. I'm going to step out. You can see kind of way back there, the march has just begun after a rally for the man that they're calling Mr. D. In this case, they're very upset, marching for justice for what they believe could be an unauthorized shooting in this case. That's their feeling.
Live, on air, and online. This is WSAV News 3 at 11.
He was shot down in handcuffs by the police, and that is unjust.
Heartbroken tonight, a mother demanding answers after her son was shot and killed as officers tried to arrest him this morning in Savannah.
News 3's Ian Murrow was there in the middle of the action. And Ian, tell us, what was the atmosphere like tonight?
Well, it was loud, people were upset, but fortunately it was peaceful. There were actually two separate groups who organized rallies at the same time and at the same place, so they ended up joining together, and the result looked like this.
We want justice! We want justice! They took my child away from me.
Oh, Jesus. Exactly.
Took my child away from me in handcuffs. Shot him in handcuffs.
A mother's desperate call for justice.
I just want to see this officer that killed my son in handcuffs. I want him to suffer just like how my child suffered.
Friends and family gather mourning the loss of Charles Smith, shot Thursday morning by a police officer.
It's not fair. It's not fair at all. They have to grow up not knowing who their daddy is. It's not fair. It's not fair.
And it would not be another Zimmerman. When Zimmerman got away for killing Trayvon Martin, we would not allow this to happen. Not in this case. No, not in this case.
Rallies were organized to bring the community together for change.
Everybody's just waiting to see if this powder cake is going to explode, but I don't think it's going to explode because everybody's out here in the positive, and we're going to show everybody that we're a community in the positive, and we're going to do the right thing.
Leaders like Dietrich Leggett and Pastor Joe Fincher insist, though, their cause won't become anything like we've seen in the headlines lately.
Why do you think it's important it doesn't turn into another Ferguson?
Because Savannah is a growing city. You know, and we are a family-oriented city, and if it turns into a Ferguson, then the Savannah get a bad light.
Instead of fighting hand-to-hand, we can fight with our minds, and we definitely can fight in prayer.
After the rally, they marched down Augusta Avenue, making their way to the Savannah-Chatham Police Department on Lathrop.
We want justice! Justice for who?
Then they gathered again at Augusta Avenue and Eagle Street.
Justice has to be served here in our city so that we can move forward.
And organizers say this won't be the end of their fight.
And we are not going to stop marching until justice is served in this case.
We will continue to follow the story and bring you the latest on WSAV.com and, of course, again tomorrow morning starting at 5 on Coastal Sunrise.
Distrust from some in West Savannah after yesterday's shooting, but as we've seen, leaders from the police chief all the way to the mayor have been making great efforts to ease those concerns. But is it making an impression? WSAV's Joanne Merrigan is here now with that part of the story. Joanne?
That's right, Russ. Some people that we talked to say this is like a rerun of a television program. They mentioned 3 incidents in recent years that have resulted in the deaths of African-American men by police. Residents do appreciate the efforts of leaders, but some don't trust what the outcome may be. A memorial for 29-year-old Charles Smith at the site where many in the neighborhood saw his body the day before. Known as Mr. D, some consider Smith another casualty in not only the real sense, but in the war of mistrust.
So we don't have any faith in the police department. And I know that the mayor said what she said, that we're going to let the authorities do their job. But she worked for the city of Savannah. All of them work for the same agency.
Westside resident Marilyn Jackson putting it right out there. She and others had offered support to Smith's mother during a news conference.
But at some point, one must ask the question after you see your sons and daughters slain in the street, one after the other. How much more can we take?
Francis Johnson from the Georgia NAACP acknowledges we don't have all the answers in the Smith case, but a spokesman for Smith's mother, Penny Nelson, is already trying to cast doubt on the official version of the shooting.
I am the official spokesperson for the family, and pure and simple, we do not believe that Mr. D had a gun.
Whatever really happened here in the street, you don't have to go far in this community to find someone who will say there are too many tragedies that can begin with an unarmed African-American man.
You know, y'all here for a story and y'all get paid to come out here. But yet still the community, this is a family. I grew up out here.
Jackson says many here are hurting and just want answers. But she repeats what she says is her biggest concern.
And we don't have any faith in the Chatham County Police Department at this time.
Well, several in the neighborhood brought up 3 cases to me today. Anthony Smasham, who was shot in May of 2007 as he ran from police. Now, several people told me no one was ever held accountable, but the officer involved was actually charged and ended up pleading guilty to involuntary manslaughter. Another concern, a case from August of 2007, David Willis was shot by an officer after police said that Willis tried to run over the policeman. And there are still concerns about the 2000 case of Larry Wall, who was shot after scuffling with an officer. That officer was cleared at the time, but he was fired from the force about 2 years later. Now, the GBI has been called in to do this independent investigation of the Smith case. While that effort is being met with approval, police still have to conquer the us versus them mentality that many on the West Side say they still feel every day. Joanne Merrigan, WSAV News 3.
One question that a lot of people are asking is how police could have not found that Smith had a weapon when they took him into custody. Our crime expert, Jerry Long, is a former major with the Savannah-Chatham Metro Police Department. She demonstrated proper procedure on News 3's Andrew Davis.
The first thing, obviously, you don't do it like this. This is not good because you're reactionary space. So as you always see, you guide the subject and you want to have control over that person. So you want to get near an object, whether that's a wall or a car, is that the feet have to be way out and the subject should be off balance. I always use my hip to, again, keep the suspect off balance. Start again from the wrists and you go up under the arms. You want to check collars for anything that might be happening, because not only are you looking for a larger object like a gun, you're also looking for edged weapons. Point being, again, you check all around the ankles, the thighs, the pockets again, doing the other leg. You literally have to go up into the crotch and grab all around to see if there is anything in that area that is concealed. When somebody is handcuffed, you have even more control because you start using the arms against them. A large percentage of the time, you're going to have another officer there helping you, with you as a cover officer for, you don't necessarily want to grapple with somebody for an extended period of time because there's a reason they don't want you to search them.
You can see more of what Jerry Long calls proper police procedure on our website. We will continue to follow the story and bring you the latest on WSAV and WSAV.com.
Some neighbors we spoke to yesterday did compare this shooting to the shooting in Ferguson, Missouri. But not only do the details of the shootings vastly differ, so does the makeup of the two cities' minority representation. Savannah has an African-American mayor. Ferguson's mayor is white. Savannah has an African-American police chief. 5 of 8 Savannah council members are black. Only 1 of Ferguson's 6 council members are African-American. And 137 of Savannah's 541 police officers are black. In Ferguson, there are 3 out of 53. All this despite Ferguson having a much higher African-American population.
Well, Mayor Edna Jackson is joining us now to address public concerns.
And Mayor, as we just heard in Joanne's story, there are a lot of people who seem to have a distrust of the police department. It's almost an us versus them attitude. Why do you think that is, and how do you go about changing something like that?
I don't know, but the only thing we can do is to go out and to be with the residents and to let them know what we're going to do.
We are learning much more about both the man accused of pulling the trigger and the man who shot and killed him. News 3's Andrew Davis did the legwork on this one. He joins us now from the newsroom with more. Andrew?
Advanced Police Officer David Janot is a 10-year veteran of the force who before yesterday had more trouble with his driving skills than anything outside the car. Janot has several written reprimands after being responsible for 3, quote, preventable collisions. The last of those was in 2008. But other than missing a day in court in 2010, Janot was described in several parts of the personnel file as a leader on his shift and an excellent candidate to carry a taser. Now, we learned even more about the man Janot shot, Charles Smith, also known as Mr. D. A father of 4 with a baby on the way. That's how friends describe Charles Smith, but police know Smith much differently. We pulled his criminal record and he has 16 different arrests over almost a decade. The charges range from aggravated assault to cruelty to children to simple battery. But the one that may stand out the most is interference with government property. Back in 2005, the incident report shows that after Smith was arrested and in the back of a police car, he was, quote, knocking out the back windows with his head. That's a similar claim to what the GBI released yesterday. Smith's Facebook page shows Smith's alter ego as Mr. D. That's where he describes his work as robbery, extortion, and all types of effery. There are also pictures of him in prison where Smith has gone for extended periods 3 different times. Then there's the rap video titled I Might. The video shows him committing criminal acts and talks about and shows how he could hide a gun under his shirt in several different places. Now, yesterday, before the shooting, officers were arresting Smith on 6 different warrants, including several traffic violations, fleeing to elude police, and theft by larceny. But it'll be up to the GBI to figure out if Smith's actions led to his own death or if APO Janot was in the wrong.
Tonight's rally was led by the president of the Georgia NAACP, Francis Johnson, and he helped refocus the core goals of their spirited protest.
Ain't gonna let no police turn us around.
The people are just coming together. The community has realized for far too long that they have not been together, and now they're coming together.
The second rally in Western Savannah in the same number of nights.
The people will never be defeated.
Demanding answers after the shooting death of 29-year-old Charles Smith, a.k.a. Mr. D.
We need justice everywhere. Justice in Ferguson, justice in Savannah.
Friends, family, and other community members gathered at Augusta Avenue and Eagle Street, even as multiple rainstorms soaked the city.
But we have a powerful moment here to demonstrate to the nation what a community who's sick and tired of being sick and tired looks like when they get together.
You want respect, you got to give it. They say they want help from the neighborhood, but they come in the neighborhood, they don't speak to the people. It's like everybody did something. And I mean, it could be better than that, man.
They marched to the Savannah-Chatham Police Precinct 2, where caution tape surrounding the building was acting as a barrier. As they called for the tape to be torn down, Alderman Van Johnson addressed the crowd and, answering their request directly, ripped the yellow tape down the middle.
Do you think Savannah can set an example for the rest of the country how to do this peacefully?
We're already making an example. We're going to be peaceful. We're going to act correctly. We're going to protest peacefully. We're going to wait for the answers, and we're going to let the chips fall where they may.
Savannah is not Ferguson. This is a community that I know and I love. And the people, the elected officials, the appointed officials like the chief of police have been responsive. And so our message today is express your anger. Express your rage. Let's do it in a constructive way. Let's do it in a peaceful way. And I'm grateful for that.
And the biggest thing we learned today is the entire beginning of this situation was in fact caught on tape. Everything from the initial arrest to the pat-down will soon be available to the public, and many of our city aldermen were very interested in getting a look into what truly happened that day.
Last week, we dug into Charles Smith's extensive criminal past. Even before the 6 warrants that were being served against him when he was shot, Smith faced 13 different charges and had spent 3 different stints in Georgia prisons. Also, the man known as Mr. D appeared in a rap video where he talked about how he could hide a gun in his waistband. Well, at that time, we promised to obtain APO David Janot's records and reveal anything we found. News 3's Andrew Davis did the legwork, and for the sake of full disclosure, he has both his personnel and internal affairs records.
It starts with driving. From 2006 to 2008, he was involved in 4 preventable collisions in his police car. Janot received a total of 4 days suspension for those accidents. The 10-year veteran has also been named in 3 different complaints by people he was arresting or given tickets to for, quote, improper behavior. During one in 2009, he was accused of yelling and then holding a man at gunpoint after that man wouldn't release his own weapon. That man, James Bennett, admitted to firing his gun in the air as he was chasing down a suspect who he thought was breaking into his car. Another, a claim of using excessive force against a suspect. In both those complaints, Janot was exonerated. But Janot did admit to one violation during his tenure with SCMPD, and we're telling you about it solely for the benefit of full disclosure. In 2012, his MDT, or mobile data transport, was infected with viruses. Those viruses came from Janot downloading about 100 images of women, quote, in various stages of undress. Janot admitted to searching for those pictures, but not any pornography. He received a written reprimand. In the comments, his supervisor wrote, quote, his actions were solely for his own personal enjoyment and could potentially embarrass the department.
Well, Janot was also described in several different evaluations as a good officer and an excellent candidate to carry a taser. He remains on paid administrative leave in connection with last week's shooting. What exactly can we see now from those cameras? Does it give us any clues to why Smith was shot and killed? WSAV crime expert Jerry Long sat down with News 3's Andrew Davis to break down the video frame by frame.
Both officers each have an arm, and then the third officer is at his feet. And so then the struggle ensues.
When you get into that struggle, how careful do you have to be as an officer?
You don't want somebody to go underneath them for two reasons. One, they can latch onto themselves and you'll never get your hands apart, or they might have something underneath them or in their waistband that you don't know. It appeared to me that he was trying to pull his hands underneath them.
There's no audio on this.
No. You would hear what the officers were telling the subject. You would hear them identify themselves. Hopefully you would hear what was being said as they're struggling on the ground, what the subject may have said. Audio gives you more of context.
We couldn't tell you whether they would have felt anything that would have been on his body.
No. There was a gun found at the scene, so we know that there is another gun. If it was on his person, and if you look at him standing in the window or as he's going out to the car, the pants are in fact very baggy. So it's very possible it could have been in his crotch. It's very possible it could have been somewhere under his shirt. You would believe that the officers would find it, but the search appeared to be a little cursory.
When you were in a struggle with someone like that, you wouldn't know and you wouldn't be feeling around.
No, your focus is control. Your focus is to get the cuffs on the individual and to stop the fight.
With the situation the way it was in the store, would you as an officer give him a full search instead of a pat-down?
And this particular subject, Charles Smith, in fact, was known to have used firearms in multiple incidents. You would make every effort to make sure that he is not carrying one at the time of his arrest. You don't know what the subject's mindset was. You know, he's a convicted felon. He knows he's going to jail for 6 or 7 warrants, serious felonies, that he's going to go back for a serious time. So his mindset is, I am not going back to jail. As he's up against the vehicle, as they're beginning his search, it's obvious that he's ready to get that pat down over, that he's moving towards the car, getting ready to get into the car, when most people don't want to get into a police car, particularly if they know they're going to jail.
So these officers didn't do the proper job?
It looks like there was somewhat of a failure, yes.
Well, the video shows no visible sign of the gun that authorities say Smith had at the time of his arrest, and that raises concern among his family and supporters. They gathered at Mount Carmel Baptist Church directly across from where Smith was killed this morning. Reverend Leonard Small called for Officer David Janot to be fired immediately. He also said the family and supporters have concerns with GBI presentation to City Council that took place yesterday. That presentation delved into Smith's past.
The GBI decided it was reasonable to bring up videos off of YouTube. What does that have to do with a man being shot to death on Augusta Avenue in the middle of the day? That's not evidence.
Reverend Small also questioned how there could be no video of the shooting since there was a second Metro Patrol car following the one that Smith was riding in, but Metro Police do not have dash cams.
We have the entire video of Charles Smith's arrest showing 3 different angles from security cameras on our website. Just go to WSAV.com and search arrest video.
And there was more controversy tonight after several people attending another protest for Smith claimed that they were sprayed by mosquito control.
I am upset. We was doing a peaceful demonstration. Someone had to authorize that helicopter to fly up above.
Now, those taking part say they were protesting peacefully when the mosquito control chopper flew by at a low altitude and sprayed. Some claim they got it in their eyes.
Now that evidence is out, we're holding you responsible for this. We know. Because it happened on your watch. It happened at your establishment. It's because you called them.
That is 5th District County Commissioner Yusuf Shabazz speaking outside U.S. Food Store on Tuesday. Shabazz seems to blame the store owner for calling police and telling them that Charles Smith, who had warrants out for his arrest, was there. However, News 3 has learned from multiple sources, including the Savannah mayor, that the store owner did not alert police. The comments have left a sour taste in the mouths of some, including County Commissioner Al Scott, who had this to say this morning.
I just personally would not call for a boycott, and especially if I did not live in that area. As elected officials, you ought to exercise restraint.
Well, we tried to talk to Commissioner Shabazz, but as you can see, he walked away from our cameras.
Raquel, hundreds of people showed up to this morning's service. They even had to park 2 by 2 on the street, completely blocking one of the lanes so that everyone could get into the church. The crowds gathered early at the Second Arnold Baptist Church on 37th Street, filing in to pay their respects to Mr. D and his family, and those who attended say they're coming together to help his loved ones get through the unthinkable.
It was very emotional, and today and tomorrow is going to be the most hardest time for the family, you know, putting him in the ground and then tomorrow waking up with him not being there.
It's a tragic matter, but everybody came together. You know, everybody's on a positive note about the situation. I mean, it really wasn't sad. It was like everybody came together, you know.
Several people took the chance to speak to the crowd and pay their respects. Most notably, though, the owner of the store where Smith was originally arrested.
I went up there and I gave some words because I want everybody to know the truth, that I did like Mr. Dean, that there's no animosity. Now, I will do nothing to hurt nobody, period, no matter who it was, and I won't try to cover up for nobody or try to hide anything from nobody.
Comments made by some of the thousands who've signed a Move On petition sum up public sentiment. Outrageous behavior by a public official. I do not think an apology is sufficient. Nothing short of resignation will do. He should be fired. He is harming the rights of an individual that he has sworn to protect. Melissa McCoy started the petition calling for Commissioner Shabazz to apologize and retract his statements.
For an elected official to somehow suggest that cooperating with the police is a crime, that's a terrible disconnect in our society. And I found his remarks just absolutely untenable.
McCoy believes the public has a right to hold its elected officials accountable. Tom Barton is the editor of the Savannah Morning News editorial page. His column this morning echoes McCoy.
This is a great opportunity for our elected officials to stand up and say what Commissioner Shabazz did was wrong. We don't agree with what he did, and we need to call him out on it. Because here's what the problem is. When you let something like this go, in my opinion, you get more of it.
But so far, officials from both the city and county have remained largely silent. We asked Mayor Edna Jackson last week if she was concerned.
I'm not going to answer that question, you know, because everybody have individual rights. And if that is how he felt, so be it. He's a county official, and I can't speak for what the attitude of the county is, what their or how they feel about it. So I would leave that to the chairman of the county commission.
County Chairman Al Scott has gone so far as to say elected officials ought to exercise restraint in their freedom of speech, but when pressed on whether the commissioner would be censured,
We don't have that authority.
protocol would allow for another commissioner to request a motion to censure Shabazz to be put on the agenda, but the chairman would have to allow the motion to come forward. Barton says their reluctance isn't surprising.
Savannah, among your elected officials, it's kind of almost like a clubbish atmosphere. We will deal with our dirty laundry in private. We're not going to bring it out publicly.
I approached Yusuf Shabazz before the commission meeting. He asked to speak outside the meeting room, then refused an on-camera interview. Following the meeting, we went to the commission chair, Al Scott.
Why would you expect it at this meeting, since we had a meeting 2 weeks ago, right after he made those comments, and you did not expect him at that meeting?
I guess it was expected at that meeting. It didn't happen. It didn't happen again today. Is anybody going to say anything to him?
You didn't show up for it.
I wasn't here for that, but I'm just here asking that question today. It was in an editorial in the paper this morning.
Yeah. But let me tell you how I feel about it.
Okay.
I thought his comments were wrong. And I personally think that he probably owed the store owner an apology.
Scott may feel that way personally, but expressed reservations about the validity of the well-publicized online petition.
I view that online petition, and some of them are even out of state and out of county, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay.
It's a MoveOn.org petition.
Finally, I tried one more time with Commissioner Shabazz.
Mr. Shabazz, any comment?
No comment, no comment.
You don't want to say anything about, in return, there's a petition online with thousands of people. You can turn your back all you want to, sir, but there's a petition online that's asking for an apology. What's your response to that petition? Mr. Shabazz, seriously, are you going to walk away?
That's the only answer it seems anyone will get. Reporting in Savannah, I'm Martin Staunton, WSAV News 3.